There are clear signs of trouble in the Chinese economy. Consider the job market, particularly for young people. In just a few years, unemployment rates for those aged 16 to 24 have more than doubled, rising from about 10% in 2019 to over 20% this past summer before the government stopped releasing the data. The stock market is another indicator of distress. Since 2021, the Chinese stock market has plummeted, losing around 40% of its value, a steeper decline than even the Nasdaq has faced in recent times. Real estate isn't faring any better. Last year, land sales in China hit their lowest point this century. One developer, in a bid to attract buyers, is even offering $70,000 in gold bars with each new home purchase. Consumer spending is down and deflation has taken hold. For the first time in our lifetimes, China's population has started to decrease. The question is no longer when China's economy will overtake America's, but if it will at all. For 2 decades, the narrative was clear. The West was declining and the East was rising. Now it seems the East may have reached its zenith. Is this peak China? The 2008 financial crisis was expected to hit China hard. The US, its largest trading partner, was reeling, and millions of Chinese workers and thousands of factories depended on American consumers who were suddenly jobless and burdened with unaffordable mortgages. Yet by 2009, China had swiftly bounced back, becoming the first major economy to recover. While the US, Japan, Germany, and other countries were experiencing economic downturns, China's economy not only grew but did so impressively, nearly reaching double-digit growth rates. A decade later, China was at the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. This crisis disrupted both supply and demand, leaving factory and service workers unable to work from home. Despite these challenges, Beijing surpassed expectations. It managed to not just endure the pandemic, but to lead the global recovery, quickly boosting its export levels to unprecedented heights. Indeed, history shows that betting against the Chinese economy has often been a losing wager. So what's China's secret? It's relatively straightforward. China builds. Whether it's roads, bridges, skyscrapers, stadiums, or airports, construction is a constant. Here's how it typically works. Beijing facilitates easy access to loans by lowering interest rates and lavishing state-owned enterprises with ample subsidies. With such favorable financial conditions, it becomes economically viable, even inevitable, to embark on large-scale infrastructure projects such as highways and tunnels, even if their immediate utility is questionable. Admittedly, a lot of this investment may seem unproductive, yet it still accomplishes 2 crucial objectives. It creates jobs and boosts the country's GDP. Historically, this approach has been justified. When Deng Xiaoping took power in the 1970s, China was impoverished and underdeveloped, sorely in need of basic infrastructure. At that time, even a simple 2-lane road or modest school represented a significant advancement. To bridge the gap with more developed nations, China adopted a philosophy of building first and deliberating later, a strategy that, until now, has spurred monumental growth and development. In 2009, Al Jazeera featured a story about Ordos, dubbed China's ghost city, located in the desert. The report suggested that the largely vacant city was a clear sign of a housing bubble. However, today, Ordos is anything but deserted, housing around 2 million residents. In another instance, CNN showcased a photo in 2017 with the headline, "China's Metro Station in the Middle of Nowhere." The image became a joke worldwide as an example of misguided planning. But just 2 years later, the area around the station had developed so rapidly that it commanded respect rather than ridicule. Time and time again, skepticism about China's development projects has proven premature. Demand has frequently risen to meet the supply, fueled by massive urban migration. However, this pattern raises concerns about sustainability. To keep its economy growing, China must continually increase its investments. But the efficiency of these investments is declining. 2 decades ago, $4 in construction spending returned $1 in economic output. Today, the ratio has worsened to about $12 spent for every dollar returned. China now finds itself as a middle-income nation with the infrastructure of a wealthy country. With 25,000 miles of high-speed rail and 3 million miles of highways, the country is nearing the limits of what it can build. As most feasible projects are completed, China is increasingly turning to more dubious initiatives. The Qingshui River Bridge in China stands as one of the tallest bridges in the world. At 1,800 feet above the ground and stretching 2,300 feet in length, it is undoubtedly an architectural and engineering wonder. Impressive? Well, certainly. Economically justifiable? That's debatable. This towering structure isn't a bustling metropolis like Shanghai or Chongqing, but in a region akin to rural Mississippi in the U.S., Jizu. Despite being the fourth poorest amongst China's 31 provinces and provincial-level cities with a per capita GDP of just $7,700, Jizu has constructed about 500 new bridges in just 2 years, many of which rank among the world's tallest. The $150 million Qingshui River Bridge soaring above the mountains might become another case like Ordos or the famously isolated metro station, potentially sparking economic transformation in its area. Given China's history, it might seem rash to discount the potential of any specific project. However, believing such expansive construction can continue indefinitely is equally risky. Here's another way to look at it. Taking on debt is a normal part of economic growth, and it's fine if that debt takes years to yield returns. But when debt grows faster than GDP, it's a clear indicator of an underlying problem. China's GDP can increase through 4 main avenues: investment, government spending, exports, and consumption. Investment is becoming less viable. Government spending is relatively constant, and other countries, including the US, are striving to reduce their imports from China. This leaves consumption as the primary path forward. China must find a way to boost domestic spending, a challenge that the government, traditionally not known for subtlety in persuasion, has struggled with and has even seen setbacks in recent times. China's consumers spend less than 40% of their GDP, which is considerably lower than the counterparts in other regions. Americans spend nearly 70%, Europeans over 50%, and the global average is around 55%. A significant factor behind this discrepancy is the real estate market. For years, real estate was the preferred investment for many middle-class families in China. The typical approach involved saving rigorously, pooling resources from relatives, and investing in 1, 2, or even 3 apartments. This wasn't just a path to wealth, it represented the Chinese dream. These properties were often sold before construction was completed, allowing developers to use the down payments to finance further construction. This cycle depended heavily on continuous buyer investments. However, when a significant number of buyers stopped making payments last year, the entire system began to collapse. For 2 decades, real estate was seen as a safe bet, but as it became riskier, consumer confidence plummeted. The crux of the issue is confidence. When people get paid, they face a decision: save or spend. Typically, spending happens when there's confidence in future income. Saving occurs when there's uncertainty. Currently, many Chinese consumers are unsure. In the past 4 years, they've significantly increased their savings, cutting down on major expenditure like cars, TVs, and furniture. While they still travel and make purchases, it's usually domestically or during sales. To encourage spending, many countries have reduced their prices. This strategy has led to lower profits, which in turn have caused layoffs and wage reductions. These layoffs reduce consumer confidence even further, diminishing their likelihood to spend and perpetuating a negative cycle. Unless China finds a way to break this cycle, the nation may have to brace itself for a period of lower economic growth. Between 1979 and today, China experienced what the World Bank has described as the fastest sustained expansion by a major economy in history. This remarkable growth spanned over 4 decades, but it was an anomaly, not sustainable indefinitely. China's economy is still growing, but at a slower pace. Its middle class remains robust at 700 million people, and it maintains the world's second-largest military. The notion that China might simply vanish from global prominence is an overcorrection from past overly optimistic views, a shift to the opposite extreme. However, the rapid growth that once fueled talk of an Asian century is waning, and reversing this trend seems unlikely. So what do you think? Are there any positive signs for China's economic future? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Economy Obsession for more insightful videos. We'll be back soon.